In 1966, the residents of a small town in West Virginia were stalked by an unknown creature with glowing red eyes. Was he real or just a figment of the imagination? And does recent photographic evidence suggest he may have returned? This week on Bedtime Stories, we retell the legend of the Mothman. Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a small town with a big history. Its population of just over 4,000 occupies an area of only 3 square miles. One would not think of it as a city, but in fact, it is surrounded by lush green countryside, bisected by the vast Ohio River, and steeped in larger-than-life legend. As its name suggests, the town's character is quaint, peaceful, and above all, pleasant, at least on the surface. No one would ever suspect that it was home to one of the most unsettling ordeals of the last half-century, an ordeal that still strikes fear into the hearts of many. During the latter half of the 1960s, reports began to surface of mysterious and horrifying creatures stalking residents on the outskirts of town. Encounters with this entity were said to be so terrifying that at least one person suffered psychological trauma for years afterward. The first sighting occurred on November 12, 1966, when 5 gravediggers working in a cemetery near Clendenin saw what they thought was a human figure fly out of a group of trees. They watched for about a minute as it swooped low over their heads, then disappeared into the distance. 2 nights later, on November 14th, a Salem resident named Newell Partridge was at home watching television when he saw 2 glowing red lights hovering over a field behind his property. Upon investigating, he realized the lights were actually eyes belonging to a tall, dark figure. It was perched on a tree branch about 100 meters away. Suddenly, it rose into the air, let out a blood-curdling scream, and flew off over the woods. Partridge's German Shepherd bandit gave chase and was never seen again. The following night, November 15th, 2 young married couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Millette, rushed into the Mason County Sheriff's Office in a state of panic. They claimed they had been driving near the old TNT area outside Point Pleasant when they spotted a tall, gray figure standing by the road. They said it looked like a man, but taller, possibly 7 feet, with wings folded behind its back. At its feet lay the carcass of a dog, thought to be Partridge's missing German Shepherd. As the couples passed, the figure spread its wings, took to the air, and began chasing their car. Scarberry floored the accelerator, hitting speeds of nearly 100 miles per hour, but the creature kept pace. Linda later recalled its piercing screech and glowing red eyes that shone like car reflectors. When they finally reached the town, the creature broke off the chase and returned in the direction of the TNT area. The next day, November 16th, a press conference was held. Both couples gave their accounts to the media. Dr. Robert Smith, a wildlife expert, suggested they had likely seen a large sandhill crane blown off its migration route. That same evening, another chilling encounter took place. Raymond and Marcella Walmsley, along with their baby daughter Tina and a family friend, were driving to visit relatives on the edge of town. When they arrived, they spotted a massive gray figure with glowing red eyes rising from the ground nearby. In her terror, Marcella dropped her baby before quickly scooping her up and running inside. The creature shuffled after them, peering through the windows and terrifying everyone inside until police arrived half an hour later, by which time it had vanished. Marcella later claimed the Mothman returned to her home multiple times, and that she often heard its unearthly screams at night. She reportedly suffered nightmares and other issues for years afterward. Over time, the TNT area, a former World War II munitions site riddled with tunnels and abandoned bunkers, became heavily associated with the Mothman, with most sightings occurring nearby. Reports peaked in 1967. Then, in December that year, tragedy struck. The Silver Bridge over the Ohio River collapsed, killing 46 people. Almost immediately, sightings of the Mothman ceased altogether, leading many to believe it had been a harbinger of doom. But what was the Mothman? A supernatural omen? An undiscovered creature? Or just a misidentified bird? Skeptics point to the sandhill crane, a large bird with red markings around its eyes that can grow up to 6 feet tall. Yet eyewitnesses insist what they saw was no bird. Its glowing eyes, human-like shrieks, and incredible speed defied natural explanation. While skeptics believe some reports were exaggerated or fabricated, perhaps even to boost local tourism. The earliest sightings remain compelling, for encounters across 4 days, from witnesses who did not know each other, all describing the same terrifying figure. Even Sheriff George Johnson, who knew the Scarberrys and Millettes personally, vouched for their sincerity, noting how shaken and distraught they were after their ordeal. For that reason, many continue to give these accounts the benefit of the doubt, and the legend of the Mothman lives on. There could well have been an unknown cryptid stalking the countryside around Point Pleasant. But if that was truly the case, what was its purpose, and where did it come from? One theory within the fringe community is that the Mothman is a symbol of impending doom. Completely unrelated to the Point Pleasant sightings, similar creatures have allegedly been seen all over the world, and wherever they appear, tragedy is said to follow. Many have even likened the Mothman to the strange flying humanoids often reported in parts of South and Central America. The most popular theory among believers, however, is that the Mothman was extraterrestrial in origin. Sometime before the first reported sighting, a sewing machine salesman named Woodrow Derenberger was driving along I-77, not far from Point Pleasant, when he claimed to have encountered a UFO that forced his car to a stop. A being emerged from craft, wearing a huge, unsettling grin. According to Derenberger, this entity communicated with him telepathically, asking about a strange glow on the horizon, not realize it was only the lights of a distant town. The figure introduced himself as Injured Cold, a name that meant nothing to Derenberger at the time, but which has since gained notoriety. Many alleged alien abductees have also claimed to meet the same being, Injured Cold, otherwise known as the Grinning Man. We will cover him in another episode. Cold supposedly asked Derenberger many questions about the people and surrounding area, before thanking him and leaving in his bizarre craft. Less than 2 weeks later, the first Mothman sightings began to surface. Over time, links between the two entities have inevitably been drawn. Not only that, but during the same period, numerous UFOs and strange lights were witnessed in and around Point Pleasant. Some residents even reported paranormal disturbances in their homes, activity that gradually faded once the Mothman sighting stopped. Even the infamous Men in Black were said to have appeared in town on several occasions. Whoever, or whatever, the Mothman was, one thing is certain. Something strange was happening in that small city on the banks of the Ohio River during the late 1960s. Were people encountering a genuine cryptid, or merely falling victim to the power of suggestion and imagination? Which is more bizarre, that an undiscovered species of earthly or even otherworldly origin was stalking the countryside, or that people might go to extraordinary lengths to keep their town alive through legend? In closing, we turn to a photograph taken near Point Pleasant on November 20th, 2016, almost 50 years of the day after the first reported sighting. While it may be nothing more than a bird of prey carrying a snake in its talons, one haunting question remains. Could the Mothman have finally returned to Point Pleasant after all this time? Bedtime Stories.